I'm Christy.
And I'm Kathy.
And this is The Psychic
And the Skeptic. Welcome to our 5th episode on the energy spectrum. So we're mostly talking about electromagnetic fields or the electromagnetic spectrum. This is a full range of electromagnetic radiation that's organized by frequency into wavelengths. So this is important for the paranormal field because there are many theories out there, both from a scientific or a skeptical viewpoint, as well as a metaphysical or psychic viewpoint. So before we get into a lot of the theory from a paranormal perspective, we need to talk about this from a scientific viewpoint and explain what this electromagnetic spectrum really is. And we're talking about energy or even electricity. There's electricity all over our body. When you look at the human body, the heart pumps because of an electrical conductive system that travels through the heart to make that muscle contract.
Right, signals, basically.
Right, send signals to make the heart function. When you look at the nervous system, the brain communicates with the body through the neurons. So the message is traveled through the nervous system with positive and negative charges that travel throughout the neurons or the nerve cells. So it makes sense that the body works with electricity. So now we know human bodies have electricity, we have a physical body, and we have a consciousness. So what happens when we die? We lose our physical body, and what are we left with?
Our consciousness.
And energy.
Right.
So,
you ever watch those shows that come on TV sometimes, and they'll show you like someone dying or whatever, and like this white light that comes out of the person, right. And that's supposedly like, you know, their soul,
the old
their
cartoons. The old cartoons,
yeah.
The character would die, and you see the white ghost travel away from him.
Yes.
So they've left the body behind, but the quote-unquote spirit is now what you have left. So would you say maybe an intelligent haunting is our human form without the body?
Yeah, I would say it's left over or imprinted energy. It does not have a conscious, whereas intelligence do.
Right. So residual could be the human form without the body and without the consciousness and just the electricity imprinted into the environment.
Yeah, I fully believe that.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever heard of that 21 grams experiment?
Remind me of that again.
Okay, 21 grams. So basically, there was a doctor. His name was Duncan McDougall. And he did this study and published this in 1907. And yes, here we go back to a little bit of history, right? Always got to have some history.
That's when they were
episodes.
Really interested in the paranormal. That's
right.
when it really
and the brain, right? And psychology. All this was, everybody was trying to figure this stuff out. But what he did is he would explore the idea of actually measuring the soul.
Oh, right. The weight
yes.
of the energy.
Yes. And he actually had 6 bodies that he used in his study, and he weighed them right before death. And then
his assumption is that energy has weight to it?
Yes. He hypothesized that if a soul had some mass, its departure from the body at the moment of its death would result in some sort of measurable weight loss. Like you can measure the soul. So with that said, he used these 6 patients, right? They were terminally ill patients, and he basically waited for the moment of their death, and he weighed them. And then right after they died, he weighed them again. And roughly was about 21 grams. So this became known as the 21 grams experiment. Now, there are criticisms.
Yeah, I did hear they discredited him. They criticized him, saying his study wasn't big enough. He didn't have a big enough sample size.
Right, and they said it was unscientific in a sense due to that sample size and also inconsistent results later on. And they thought that his methodology was poor as well.
Right, yeah, and I'm sure in 1907 or whenever that was, they didn't have the best scales or the most calibrated or accurate type scales.
Not the technology that we have today, for sure.
And modern day research, we need repetitive studies that bring the sample size much larger. So people really haven't continued this experiment to get us a big sample size. Now, I guess what's confusing for me is weight of energy. So when we talk about energy from the electromagnetic spectrum, it's hard to see how it could be measurable as far as weight goes. 21 grams is a lot of weight. Mm-hmm. And energy doesn't seem to carry much weight when we look at the energy around us.
No, I
right?
beg to differ.
There's probably a way to really measure that, but there's the skeptic in me. So how much of that 21 grams was fluid evaporation from the body? When we breathe, we give off fluid, right? Our lungs will give off what we call insensible losses when we breathe and when you sweat. So some of that evaporates into the environment.
And
so I
when
wonder
a
if
body
some of that
dies-
could have been energy and most of it was probably fluid hydration, right? The body drying. I know it was.
maybe,
And how
but-
long was that? Do you know? He weighed them right before and immediately after? So
Yes.
was this like seconds later?
Like right as soon as they took their last breath.
Okay.
He's weighing. And here's something else with that. We don't exactly know how long it actually takes for a soul to leave the body, right? But we know that that soul is there. And when a human body dies, it does release fluids, you know,
sure.
Bodies
Later.
fart, you know.
Gases are released.
Gases are released, yes. And so I'm wondering in his studies, I wish there was just more to learn about it, because was he able to like not include the gases or the liquids that's excreted from the body?
And it's not that immediate. So, I mean, that stuff happens later to the body after it passes. It's not immediate loss of fluids.
Oh, I thought it was.
I'm talking about well, as those muscles relax. That's why I said, how soon after did he weigh him? Was it like they die a few seconds later or right before death? And how did he know that they were about to die in that one moment, you know?
Well, supposedly he's a doctor.
Right. But they could
my
have lost...
understanding was right afterwards.
Yeah. So,
and, you know,
and that's probably where the critics come in. Like that's probably stuff that wasn't published from his study, like the timing and...
Yeah. Well, and here's something else. You know, Einstein, everybody knows about Einstein, right? Is the genius of the world, pretty much, right? With his brain. He kind of came up with a theory that energy cannot be created or destroyed, just transformed. And I did a little bit of study on that because I've often thought about that. You know, when a soul leaves a body, you've got that consciousness, you've got that soul. So what happens to it, right? And so many different people have different, you know, theories of their own and thoughts and beliefs.
Right. And this one is really big in the paranormal field.
So Einstein's law of conservation of energy states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed from one form to another. So, for example, chemical energy in gasoline can be converted to kinetic energy to move a car, right? And heat energy can be transferred to the surroundings.
And that points towards that residual, if energy just transfers to the surroundings.
Yes.
But then you add the consciousness, and now we have an intelligent haunting.
Correct.
Or intelligent ghost.
And when you're talking about weight and souls, ghosts, spirits, I will tell you they identify differently as well for those of us that do interact with them on more of a conscious level.
How do you mean they identify? What do you mean?
Well, for example, when I come across a heavenly being, its energy is so light, it's fluffy, it is just, it's like, wow, right?
Very airy.
Yes, very airy, happy, peaceful, light. When I come across someone who's been in physical form and then they passed, and maybe they're coming back, you know, to talk to their loved one for a minute or whatever, their energy is not quite as light as what that heavenly energy was. And then if I come in contact with an earthbound, their energy is very heavy. It's very low. You know, I don't know how much 21 grams is, but I will tell you, I can tell that they're earthbound because of the way that heavy energy feels.
Right.
And, you know, different people that have gifts might identify them differently. We all have our own special ways, but this is how I usually tell the type of spirit that comes in and interacts with me, by the way that energy feels. So do I believe that energy has weight? Absolutely. 100%.
By the way, the conversion is 1 kilogram, so that's 1,000 grams is 2.2 pounds. So 21 grams is very small and very light.
I've always sucked at math, but thank you.
Well, that's part of my job as a nurse. We use kilograms for weight.
Mine is the psychology of the mind, as you can imagine.
So we're a good team here.
We are, right.
So when you were talking about lighter energy and darker energy, or
Heavier energy. Yeah.
Heavier. I've also heard you and other sensitives, intuitive psychics say that they're on, and you've said this before, where those lighter energies are on a faster wavelength. So
their vibration
level is faster than some of those darker energies. And I've also read a book on some paranormal theories that some investigators believe that those darker energies are in that infrared area on the light spectrum or the electromagnetic field. And the positive, angelic, or heavenly type energies are on that ultraviolet part of the spectrum. I'm getting a little ahead of myself because we haven't really discussed the electromagnetic spectrum. So we have a huge spectrum that we're talking about. From the lowest low frequency with the largest waveforms, that's radio waves, all the way up to the highest, which are gamma rays. Those are the higher frequency or the shortest wavelengths when we talk about the spectrum on a waveform.
So, I'm wondering, when you said that makes me think, and like this question that just popped into my head, I wonder, when we go to record audio, or even when us sensitives or psychics hear spirit from the other side. So those lower or louder ones, I wonder, are they on the radio?
Well, there's different frequency.
Not radio, but
there's also a frequency assigned to each of these wavelengths. But backing up a little bit, so from your lower, larger wavelengths, the lowest is radio. And this is huge. I mean, the wavelengths are as high as buildings. That's why antennas can receive signals, and we put them way up on buildings. And then, when we get to a smaller, tighter wavelength, you're talking about gamma rays. So what's in between? So from the lowest, we've got radio. Next would be your microwave. Then we talk about infrared. That's like the light on your remote control or your night vision security cameras at your house. The light that's on our cameras that we use for night vision.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it depends on the camera you're using. But sometimes it's in black and white. So that's infrared. So that's just beyond what our eyes can see. So what's next is visible light. That's the rainbow. That's from red all the way through violet. And then beyond the visible light spectrum is ultraviolet. That's next. So we're getting shorter and faster. Ultraviolet, everybody should know about that. Further along from that is X-ray. And X-rays, the wavelength is about the size of an atom, which is why we can get images with X-ray through our body, because it can cut through. I don't know if that's the best way to explain that.
No, I know, but I get it. You're speaking in layman terms, which is great, because some of us don't have the medical knowledge like that. So that's appreciated.
This is more science and physics too. So, but
which I was never good at.
Yeah, versus health, the healthcare side of it. I've read up a lot on this to kind of see where our theories come from to help explain things. And we want to be able to explain it from a scientific viewpoint, help our clients understand things. But the highest wavelength I mentioned, gamma rays, are the shortest wavelengths. So these are even smaller than the nucleus of an atom.
And all this is not just visual, right? Like is it visual and audible?
This is energy frequency.
Okay.
So the only thing we can see is the visible light spectrum. So colors, images.
I'm wondering about hearing though, like
radio waves.
Yeah.
You can hear those.
There's got to be something to connect the two, which would make sense.
Well, we're talking about energy. Everything is energy. Sound is energy. Light is energy.
Correct.
They all fall in the same spectrum. So just to kind of wrap your brain around how big this really is.
It's huge.
This whole spectrum is so big. Mm-hmm. So I heard somebody describe it once, that the visible light spectrum, what we can see with our eyes, is about the thickness of a piece of paper in comparison to the Empire State Building being the entire electromagnetic spectrum.
Wow.
So we can't see most of what's out there. We can only see that thickness of a piece of paper.
Would you know that? Wow. This really opens up a lot of questions. Right. Because
learning that made me really interested in the paranormal. It's like, okay, so there's so much we can't see and there's so much we can't hear.
Right. And I'm thinking about realms, right? If we think about how big that is, there's things that we can't see. Most people can't see ghosts, right? And you're talking about these different frequencies. It's like different channels, right? So different dimensions. Wouldn't it be amazing if we were able to see like that. I mean,
Right.
we might just see ghosts all around us walking around.
I think that's where your other senses come from as a gifted psychic or a medium or a sensitive
Weirdo,
or an
whatever.
empath. You're able to pick up on different frequencies, and you use that term all the time.
I do, yeah.
And when we investigate with other sensitives, intuitives, or psychics, they're picking up on different energy, which is why skeptics who want to debunk psychic ability will often test two psychics and criticize them for not picking up on the same thing.
Yeah, but it doesn't work that way.
Why didn't you pick up on this ghost? Or why didn't you pick up on that ghost?
Because honestly, like when I'm tuned in and I'm listening, I may hear a ghost that is at a lower frequency, like comes in very clear. It's like radio channels for me, honestly.
Right.
You know, like tuning in on an AM, FM radio. So I may have a ghost that comes through very clear, very audible, like I've just got that strong connection with them. And then it's like I've got this other ghost that is just like, it seems like they're really far at a distance. And I may not be able to hear them as clearly, or it might be like a little part comes in and then there's a little static, and then you hear them again, then there's a little static. So with that said, that makes perfect sense with what you're talking about.
Right. And that's why we use certain equipment in ghost hunting or paranormal investigating, such as radios. And if you've heard of the ghost box, that's a radio that scans quickly through different frequencies of radio waves, radio signals,
stations,
with the thought that we might be able to capture some voices. And the equipment, the radio itself, may possibly be able to convert some of that sound to where we can hear it. So maybe there's something outside of the frequency that the radio picks up, and it just translates back to something in just the nature of the speaker or how that signal's manipulated in the playback part of the radio.
And you know, I remember when the spirit boxes first came out, and I really didn't believe in them because I thought, you know, it's just popping through words from the radio, right? No matter how quick you do it, I believe that it can pop through. But I swear to you, one time I was out of state on an investigation, and I was in Louisiana actually, and they brought one out and it said my name, my full name, Christina. And I was like, what? You know? And so then I kind of questioned it ever since after that. But I thought maybe there is something to it.
Well, and you can look at audio recorders from that same perspective. They pick up on things we didn't hear, but in the playback, something might change in that frequency upon playback to where it's now something that we can hear. This is how I'm trying to explain, how does this work and why are we able to capture these things? Is it a ghost? Is it not? How would we explain it if it were truly a ghost?
Right.
Right.
And I know that the human ear can only hear at certain frequencies or hertz.
Yes, our ears can hear from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz.
Well, and what's so neat about our audio recorders that we use in our paranormal investigations is that it's the frequency, hertz, that they actually record at. So, and I know we've had this debate before about the old versus the new audio recorders, right? So for like an example, the new audio recorder that I bought, because I wore my other one out, but it can record between 8 and 192,000. Now, the old one that I've had forever, that I still haven't wore out, actually can record between 40 and 13,000. So still, you know, both of those, well, the newer one is over that 20,000.
What we used to debate is your older recorder, it's 40 to, what was it, 13?
13,000.
13,000. So
it can't hear full from the human ear.
So we can hear
20,000.
more on the lower frequency and the higher frequency than what your old recorders would pick up on. So like I was saying with photography, it only captures a little bit within that light spectrum from what we can see. And then the audio recorder was cutting off the low and the high end too from what we could hear, right?
Right.
So your newer one is kind of cool, right?
I think so.
Because now it's going beyond what we can hear on both sides of the spectrum when we're talking about radio frequencies or what we can hear.
Higher
on that
vibrations,
spectrum.
higher levels. Yeah.
Well, this is lower. Yeah, lower is what we hear, but your recorder at 192, that's going up almost into microwave.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so
I love technology.
But how would that translate? Because the audio jack output on those recorders, so the sound that it puts out after recording does fall within that 20
To 20,000.
To 20,000 with our ear. So is it translating somehow that signal into what we can hear? And maybe that explains what an EVP is.
I mean, good question. But you also got disembodied voices. So that means...
Well, yeah, same thing. Oh, yeah, but that's what we heard. So that was within...
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
20 to 20,000.
Yeah, a disembodied voice would have to be between 20,000 and...
20 and 20,000.
Yes, correct. Exactly.
So just as a point of reference, that's all what we can hear. Those are frequencies where we hear, radio frequencies. When we're talking about paranormal phenomenon that falls within that infrared on our cameras, or maybe what we can see, the visible light spectrum is in the range of 480 terahertz. So we're talking about from hertz to kilohertz to megahertz to gigahertz to terahertz.
That all hurts my head.
That hurts to think about, right? So that's the difference. That's why light travels faster than sound. So
that's why you see lightning before you hear the thunder.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a shorter wavelength, higher frequency. So all of the other types of paranormal phenomenon fall in a different frequency. So what are you hearing when you hear spirits? What are you seeing when you see spirits? Different frequencies, different wavelengths, waveforms of energy. So as paranormal investigators, this is one of the things that we measure on a location, because there's lots of theory around energy and ghosts, and in that ghosts are made up of energy, and we talked about that at the beginning of this episode.
Believe that.
Right.
Yep.
So there are devices out there that can measure electromagnetic fields. We have called EMF detectors. Those are tools that we use that can tell us how high of a frequency we might be gathering. And some of the equipment was intended for use by electricians, like the K2 meter. And if anybody listening has watched paranormal investigation shows, you see those a lot. But the question around measuring electromagnetic fields is, are we picking up on energy of spirit, or with the devices that can detect man-made energy or alternating current like a K2 meter, are we picking up on energy that a ghost supposedly draws from to manifest itself? So that the theory there's multiple theories out there with energy and how a ghost uses that energy, or is the energy we're picking up on part of an apparition or the presence of a ghost?
Right. And, in addition to the various kinds of EMF meters that are out there, you also have what's known as the EMF pump. And that basically is supposed to just charge the air with EMF.
Right.
To give the ghost energy, basically.
Right. So that tests that theory. Does a ghost draw from the energy in the environment to manifest itself, or to make noise, or make its presence known, or maybe use that to manipulate equipment for communication, or even to create an electronic voice phenomenon on our recorder? So however it's able to manifest itself, the theory states that it can draw from energy and use that energy. And some people would even say they could draw the energy off of our own body. This is why
I believe that
we don't promote putting or inviting spirit to use your energy to communicate. We would prefer to use a pump that gives it a source to draw from.
Correct. And along those lines, like I tell anybody that gets into the metaphysical that feels like they're sensitive or gifted or whatever, is listen, you got to learn personal protection. And that is exactly it. You can't allow spirit to drain your energy.
Right. It's mine. They got to get it from somewhere else.
Right. Exactly. And, we even have some of our clients that will tell us, hey, we have our lights that flicker off and on, or it's like something electrical. The TV. So that, again, a source of electricity, current, that ghosts can manipulate. So that makes me wonder, is there anything else outside of EMF? Or is it all EMF?
So we don't really know. And this is, again, the skeptic. We don't know if these theories are true. We don't know if ghosts exist. But this is why we repeat our experiments on an investigation. We bring the equipment. We see if we see patterns. Does this happen this way? And we tend to have some patterns when we investigate. We tend to see a little bit of consistency in our equipment. Sometimes it's not consistent, or sometimes some equipment won't even activate at all. And that's created more theories. The more we investigate, the more questions we have.
Like the REM pod.
Right.
It is one of those ones that rarely activates unless you really have something interfering with that EMF field that it has.
So I was on an investigation with you one time where we were asking questions and hoping that we would get one of those electronic voice phenomenon recordings on a recorder. Maybe Spirit would communicate with us.
Oh, is this the EMF story? I think I remember
Well,
this.
the K2 story, yes.
Yes, okay.
So we were doing 2 experiments at once.
Right.
We're always recording audio at all times. But we're also seeing if there's a spirit with us that can it communicate with the K2 meter and make it light up using EMF, or somehow manipulating the device to communicate with us. So we're trying both at the same time. And I asked the question, or I was kind of getting frustrated because it was one of those cases where our meters weren't doing anything.
Right,
Sometimes they light up a bunch, and you have to be real careful because if you have a cell phone in your pocket, the K2 meter will pick up on those signals and it will light up like a Christmas tree.
Airplane mode.
So we have to turn it off, put it away, airplane mode, no signals on your cell phones. So there weren't any lights lighting up on our K2. So I sat there and I started thinking, is this even really how it works? If there's spirit here, is the K2 even a way that they can communicate? We captured a voice at that time.
You asked them if they could touch the K2 meter to let us make it light up and let us know that
right,
they
but then
were
I said,
here.
is that even how it works? And then the EVP was, I don't know.
Right.
And so when of course, this is like the next day or the day, the week following the investigation,
When you're listening to it.
back, I found I don't know. And I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe some spirit know how to communicate in certain ways and others have no idea how to get in touch with you.
Right. They don't know how to manipulate
right.
the equipment in order to have that interaction with us.
I mean, how old is the ghost? Do they even know what the equipment is?
I do think there's a transition period. I mean, I won't get into that, but I do think that some ghosts, when they cross, depending upon their physical state here before, they crossed over, I think that there can be a learning curve. I think
most of us
side.
Living don't even know what a K2 meter is. And I think a lot of amateur investigators don't even really know what a K2 is supposed to be for.
We are really good when we're on an investigation of coming out listen, this won't hurt you. It'll just light up if you go near.
We try to train them.
Yeah. Training in a sense,
of course,
I guess.
Me as a skeptic, I'm just saying if this is even a real thing, I'm going to try it anyway, right? I'm going to just speak to them and tell them how, if you can communicate with me, if you know how to manipulate this equipment, or if you can touch it, maybe your energy will make it light up. So we try to do some training. We tell them it won't burn you, it's not hot, these lights are not fire. Right, because we don't know how old this ghost is and if they even know what electricity is.
Right. So, let alone cell phones and other electronic type of equipment.
So paranormal investigation theory, we've talked about how electromagnetic field energy might be evidence of the presence of a ghost. We've talked about how a ghost may draw that energy for use for manifestation or communication. But there's some other theories out there, and there's one that kind of disproves the paranormal. So,
oh boy, here we go. This is that fool skeptic.
So, well, we do know that if you're exposed to high electromagnetic fields in your environment, high tension power lines, electronic devices,
power boxes,
appliances in your kitchen, alarm clocks, they all give off high EMF.
Yes.
And so EMF meters measure this electromagnetic field in milligauss. And so there's certain frequencies or levels of electromagnetic fields that at certain ranges can cause symptoms to a person if they're in an environment in a high EMF. So in Europe, they have some standard on what's too high to be exposed to, because the high EMF can give you skin irritations, headaches, nausea. You can feel like can feel like somebody's watching you, and that's a big one, because a lot of our clients will tell us, every time I'm in this room, I feel like somebody's watching me.
Yep.
So my first task on that investigation, as we're scanning the environment, is I'm going to get out an EMF detector to see if we have electromagnetic fields above a 3.0 milligauss, because that's the standard set by Europe standards and what's acceptable. So
safe
anything
level
below 3.0 is considered acceptable from European standards. We don't really have a standard in the United States for that.
We probably should, though.
But most of, we're pretty good, though. We've investigated quite a few places, and most of the time we're at 0 milligauss or at 0.1, 0.2. Your standard electrical power lines outside of your house on your street in front, give off maybe a 1.0 or less. So we're pretty good here too. The high tension power lines that you might see in some neighborhoods, you might get to a 2.0, but it's still not above that 3.0. So we just don't have a law that says we can't be around that environment. It doesn't always affect everybody. Again, people who are sensitive to these kind of things, think of it like an allergy. Do you have an allergy to electromagnetic fields? You might just be more sensitive to the headaches and the things if you're around these frequencies a lot.
You just can't take an EMF blocker like an allergy pill.
And so this is right. So these are facts. This is what we know. We know this does cause problems for people. For example, on one investigation, I saw a client had a really old alarm clock, old school alarm clock on their nightstand, and it gave off a lot of EMF. And it was above a 3.0. I mean, real high. And usually for more modern day alarm clocks, you've got to be within inches to feel that EMF. You back off from the equipment a little bit and you're back down to like a 0 or a 0.1. Well, I measured that EMF from their pillow on their bed and it was still over the acceptable range. And so we alerted that client and let them know, hey, if you feel like something's watching you at night while you're laying in bed, it could be because of this alarm clock. So you might want to move it across the room or update it to something a little bit more modern that doesn't give off as much energy. So we can use it to explain away feelings of being watched or feelings of being touched. And so it's a really, really useful tool in investigating. We want to check all of the areas where the client says that they have a lot of visual disturbances, seeing shadows or feelings, those kind of things. So if they're sitting in a living room chair and they usually have a lot of activity in that spot, this could explain why they're having that feeling. On the other side, if we check those areas and we don't have high EMF readings, then that points towards, okay, so what is really happening to the client while they're sitting there? So it's not a high EMF situation.
Right.
We have one other example. We were on a case where an older couple lived in a small house with a staircase up to their bedroom loft.
Oh, I know this one, yeah.
And so it was an A-frame type house. They often had their granddaughter stay with them. Mm-hmm. They would watch her, I guess, while her mom was at work. And
I didn't get to go to this investigation.
You weren't there for that, but you know all about it. Yes,
yeah, I remember you guys talking about it.
This is a really good example, and I talk about this one in a lot of our conferences and presentations.
Right.
So this case, this little girl had complained, or this little girl had said she saw the ghost of a man on the staircase. They had a little landing going up the stairs to their loft bedroom. And she would see it from the living room while she was sitting on the couch. And that man would show up and just watch her. Well, the staircase is a long ways away from the couch in the living room. A good distance, several 15 feet, maybe 20 feet away. And so I tested the area of the couch, and the EMF reading from where she usually sits was at a 0 milligauss. So no EMF in that area, nothing in the wall that could be giving off high EMF to make her feel like someone's watching her. So then I went over to the staircase as we're sweeping the environment, getting data on temperature and EMF. The landing on the staircase had extremely high, I think in the 50s to 60s milligauss on that landing. And we noticed that the house was rewired to put a lot of electrical outlets up the staircase for Christmas lights. And so they probably weren't grounded very well, or maybe the insulation on the wiring was a little older, and it was giving off a lot of EMF. So this points to the paranormal theory that ghosts may potentially draw from high EMF in that environment, so they can pull from our electrical wiring to manifest itself. So it kind of validated the claim that this girl was saying about witnessing a man on that landing. So he'd have to be isolated to that spot potentially to draw from that energy to show himself to the girl to let her know that he was there.
I can't remember. Was that the only place that she'd really see him at?
That was the main spot. I think that was where, I think they had other activity, and this case was from maybe 10 years ago. It was a while ago.
Yeah. I know it's been a while.
Yes. So I don't remember any claims of an apparition and any other that I do remember that staircase was a common area of seeing an apparition for this little girl. She was the one who was scared, and that's why the family called us, because they believed her.
Yeah.
And they were experiencing some strange things as well, but she's the one who saw the ghost.
Do you think that the higher levels of EMF allow us to capture recorded evidence better? Like either in the way of, I know we talked about photographs in our last one, but either in the way of EVP or photographs or video
we talked about that earlier, like with the devices. Can it capture it? What frequencies does it record at? So, but I think in our...
But I mean, is it if the EMF levels are higher, do you think that increases the chance of you being able to get something recorded?
Recorded as far as
some sort of like
a voice?
Evidence. Yeah, like EVP or in a photograph.
I haven't really thought about it like that. I think it just gives a power source, more energy for something to draw from. And so if it takes a lot of energy to manifest in the form of an apparition, then the EMF, I would think, would have to be higher for that to happen, for whatever spirit's trying to manifest itself. Or perhaps it's not something that's consciously done. Maybe that energy is high enough that you get that residual type environment where something appears. It's imprinted in the environment when the conditions are right.
But my view on it from a metaphysical point of view is that if EMF increases the energy and allows that spirit to manifest more easily in whatever way, then we should have higher chances of getting something recorded.
And that's probably why EMF pumps were invented, to put more energy out there for spirits to draw from.
Right.
That's a big theory in paranormal investigation is EMF, energy, electricity is a source for spirits to draw and manifest.
Okay. And even negative ions, have you heard about that with lightning storms?
Sure.
Yeah. So one of the things that we have noticed is that when we're on an investigation, and if you have a lightning storm that comes about, it seems to increase the paranormal activity. And you just, I don't know, it's like the air is charged. And one of the reasons for that is because lightning does create negative ions in the air, and lightning itself is a very powerful electrical discharge. And we were talking about energy being part of electric, with the body. And it ionizes the air molecules, and then, it can put off these negative ions. All right, so I love it when we're going to go on an investigation and we've got this severe thunderstorm with a lot of lightning coming, because we will notice an increase in the activity.
Maybe we catch more voices on our recorder.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll witness more, like maybe we'll hear more noises or footsteps, or maybe we'll have a chance of something being moved. I don't know. It's just like it gives them an energy boost.
You feel it in the air.
Oh, for sure. The air feels charged. I definitely
believe you can feel higher energy in an environment.
Oh, yeah. But then after the storm passes, it kind of like just comes to kind of a slow halt. Like you don't get as much. It's almost like it just uses energy.
The air feels lighter too. It feels like
for sure, yeah,
cooler. And yes, that's a tough thing to describe too. But I agree with you. And lightning in the distance on an investigation will light up some of our EMF meters. So we have to kind of time it. So it doesn't mean spirit's communicating with us, but lightning can manipulate our equipment too.
Yeah,
but you're
believe
right,
it or not.
But you're right in the feeling, that sixth sense that you feel, and you just kind of feel the energy is different in the air.
Yeah, it's that
and
charge.
We're feeling those charges. And it reminds me of that case we had earlier on when I started investigating with the team. We were out in Sentinel.
Church of the Restless.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And that one is on our website. And we also talked about that in our spirit photography one, because we had referred to the little girl apparition that came out of the closet. Right. Remember?
Yes. In this case, we were trying a different experiment with our audio. We thought maybe, since it was a child spirit potentially in the home, that we would pre-record one of the kids of our investigator had pre-recorded questions to ask the girl spirit. We thought she might respond better to a kid's voice. Yeah. So we had her voice pre-recorded asking questions like, what's your name and what's your birthday?
How old are you?
Right, from a kid's voice, so maybe she would relate, especially since this activity primarily occurs around the child in the home. So we thought maybe she was just more comfortable. So we played this audio, these questions, this EVP session, questioning the spirit, hoping to get a response back on our recordings from her. And we played it in a loop over and over again with our audio recorders running. And we closed the door in the room and we gave it some time. And then I remember you had gone in to stop the recording.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Well, it felt like, I don't know, like I walked into this electrical wall, basically like this brick wall.
Right.
All
So
right.
you had gone back in there.
So yeah, I went into the room to go ahead and stop the recorder, and it just felt like, I don't know, the energy felt like it was just electrical brick wall, like bam, just hit me right on. So I immediately left the room and I went and I told the other investigators, I'm like, hey, y'all got to come feel the energy in this room.
You came to get us and I was like, what? No,
Yes.
you didn't tell us what was good. You
Did
said
I not?
you got to go in there. And I'm like,
Oh,
why? What's going
yeah.
on? What's going on?
That's right.
And you said you just got to go in there.
Right.
You didn't want to say anything. You just wanted to
That's
see our
true.
reaction. And so I was the first one in of the rest of the team. And I wasn't thinking I didn't know what to expect. I'm like, what the heck could be going on? So I open the door and I walk in. And it felt like I was walking in water. It was so thick in there. And I'm not talking about humidity. I'm talking that charge in the air. It
Yeah,
felt
the
really
heaviness,
thick.
right?
Yeah, and
Like-
I don't know if anybody listening has ever felt like when you walking on a sidewalk and they have those electrical boxes by the street lights, you can kind of hear the buzz on it. It
Yeah.
sort of has you can feel that energy in the air. This is what that was like, but times 10. Super thick. And so we're pulling out our EMF meters to try to pick up what is the reading in the room,
Right.
with it being this thick. And as soon as I was able to look at the display on it, the numbers were dropping and the air was getting thinner and I felt like I could move my arms more.
Oh yeah, we noticed a big change after
Yes.
a few minutes. It's like the room just totally transformed into
Right.
something. Yeah, the
Yeah,
air
so there
was
was
much
definitely
lighter.
some energy there for sure.
Oh, yes.
And we checked around, and this is part of debunking. There weren't any fuse boxes or we looked outside the house, outside this room. This was in the little girl's room too. And there weren't any power lines attached to the house on that wall. There was nothing but your standard outlets and light switches in that room.
Right.
Nothing that should have caused there to be heightened electricity. And we didn't have any AC or heat running at the same time too.
Correct.
So then it becomes just a personal experience because there's not really a good way to document the high EMF other than just saying we felt it, we briefly saw it on our meters, and we just have to let the community trust
And
that
decide
we're
for
giving them
themselves. Yeah.
the information that we experience. Yes, and decide for yourself.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing about the paranormal. Can we all the time prove or document? No, we can't, right? There's just so many things within the paranormal realm that people, and even us that's been doing it for years, we just don't understand.
Well, science hasn't come up with an explanation for what we're experiencing yet. But we'll keep trying and we'll keep going on investigations and we'll keep talking about it on our podcast.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So if you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to hear more, or if you have questions, you can email us at psychicandsskeptic@gmail.com. Send us your para story if you have one too, if you have your own personal experiences.
Or even your thoughts on this episode. And if you like the paranormal stuff, you can definitely visit our team's website at www.okpri.com.
And our team also has a Facebook page where we occasionally post live video during an investigation.
So we hope you guys really stick around with us because we do have some exciting things planned for this podcast.
So you can find us wherever you enjoy your podcasts. And thank you for listening.
Because the paranormal is the normal.
Not yet understood.